my channel of Aspie Answers as your host, Aspie Answers. As your host, navigator, educator, navigating through life with autism and mental health with my lived experiences to give you a few tips and advice along the way, as well as taking you all on a journey. So if you're into any of these and more, feel free to take the time to subscribe or follow me on the following social medias listed below of this podcast today. So as a disclaimer as well, there's a few that I would like to point out.
As I go along sharing you with the podcast of the topics, the terms I'll be using, like Asperger's and autism, will likely to interchange a bit throughout the series, and I don't want to offend anyone. This will go for the terminologies of people with autism, persons with autism.
This again will depend on the person who has autism, of the actual how they want to be addressed as an autistic or a person with autism. So be respectable when you do meet an autistic, hearsay, because obviously at the end of the day we don't want to, like I said, offend anyone, and saying this, that of this offence we should be able to just remove our mentality and just be respectable of others' opinions, beliefs and what have you, because at the end of the day everyone's different. Ask an autistic first before maybe addressing them as an autistic person or what have you. Just get to know them as a person as a whole behind the autism, as well as removing that kind of wishful thinking.
I'm not a medical doctor, I'm just your normal Joe blog sharing my lived experiences with Asperger's syndrome, Asperger's in short. That some things I may share, how I cope on the daily, may or may not work for you, and what may or may not work for you will not work for me, or vice versa. And that's that if there's any signs and symptoms that presents to the cases of what I share of these everyday topics of mental health and autism, do seek professional advice and second opinion, as well as also just in saying that I don't wish to see any harm in the making.
The topics that are being shared right now as I'm sharing with you all today will obviously be based on an American, UK or Aussie website or any other websites as I do my research, because as I said before, that many of these research findings that I'm doing right now will be based on this areas, because New Zealand has unlimited resources and references to what I'm sharing with you all on the everyday topics that you may be questioning on and want to learn from me, based on also my lived experiences as well. And in saying this, while I give you some tips and advice along the way, please be considerate inside the actual advice part of it, as this is just strictly based on my lived experiences. Let's just be respectable of each other's differences of opinions here.
Welcome back, chameleons. As of late, as promised, there'll be some now Autism Awareness Acceptance topic videos before I continue on to my series of the episode 3, Diagnosing versus Self-Diagnosing in Autism. Hopefully you're enjoying most of the ones I have been sharing on my podcast. Please let me know through the social medias, or even hopefully somewhere in one of the podcast listings that should allow you to give me feedback. This will be much appreciated. So as you're aware, basically this month of April is like every year is Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month for many of us. There's some conversation going on, as well as some controversial type conversation, shall we say, how this month should be called. Some has been saying it should be Autism Awareness Month, some will be saying basically it should be Autism Awareness Month. But as we are known for now, that many people these days should be aware of autism or autism spectrum disorder, and I believe that in saying this, it should be more need of acceptance of others with autism. So therefore what I'm trying to clearly address to you this morning is that with this, it should be Autism Acceptance Month. I have clearly shared some of these topics of the Autism Acceptance and Awareness videos, which you can hopefully see in my video listing. If I can find them, I'll list the playlist for you, as well as some of it will be reverted back to this podcast anyway, so that you hopefully don't have to go back and forth if need be. This month I believe should be focused on more of acceptance and or accepting of others that are different, and basically it should be every month, not just for the sake of April like any other holidays and also celebrations that we celebrate together. The negative focus of autism awareness campaigns has been taking a toll on the autistic people's mental health especially. Not everyone recognises the difference between a positive and a negative campaign about autism, hence why many of us autistics are advocating and educating you all based on this, so hopefully that you can gain a better understanding through what we're sharing with you all based on our lived experiences or what have you. When you see someone supporting a harmful campaign, you may not be so sure how to reach reached. While not everyone is open to being convinced, many people are willing to listen if you approach them in the right way and with kindness. So I am here today hopefully to give you a real short and brief conversationalist kind of topic here about this, with it as a step-by-step guide to assist you all this month, so that hopefully therefore we won't be treading on anyone's toes. So the steps to be looking out for is, step number 1 is check for your mood before you engage with anyone. For some, especially autistic people and their loved ones, fighting against harmful awareness campaigns can be emotionally draining. It can be not just emotionally draining, but it can also be a whole host of emotions that goes with it. Incredibly so that, you know, with this emotionally draining, as I said before, it can clearly put our mental health into overdrive. So therefore we shouldn't be pushing ourselves to our breaking point. Before replying to the person, we should ask ourselves some questions like, can I handle a difficult conversation right now with it? Will I be able to express myself clearly and politely? Do I feel confident enough to be assertive? If this goes badly, will I be able to calm myself down and be okay to go about my day regardless of what just happened? People might participate in a campaign because it looks good, without being aware of all the awful things involved. They probably aren't trying to hurt autistic people, and they probably think that they are helping. Some scams work very hard at looking legitimate. This makes it easy for uninformed people to fall for them. And as I clearly mentioned before in this, that there has been a well-hated organisation called Autism Speaks, which I have clearly mentioned in one of my videos, which hopefully, again, as I said, will link it back to this podcast sometime at a later date if need be. The person may not have had enough information to understand the situation. They may have not thoroughly researched it, so therefore maybe guide them in a real gentle manner. So here are some examples I can clearly illustrate to you how you could say to these people. Hey, you may not realise this, but the charity you're posting about is a scam. It says awful things about autistic people and spends only a tiny percentage of their money actually helping autistic people like us. You might not have heard this, but the group you're promoting does much more harm than good. It works at preventing autistic people from flourishing, not on making their own lives better. You'll probably know this also, but Autism Speaks says some really terrible things about autistic people. Again, as I said, sometimes I don't want to bring out too much about Autism Speaks, because I know in the autistic community groups that I've been in, many of them has had some maybe rough encounters, so it might trigger them. So I humbly apologise in advance for those ones that may be listening today that are autistics and have come into forces with Autism Speak. Showing appreciation of their good intentions can go a long way towards helping them see you as a potential friend and ally. Empathy helps open people's minds. Here are some examples of things you can say. I know you're doing your best to help out and show how much you love your autistic sister. You don't need to feel bad. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and it can be so tough to figure out which groups are helpful or harmful. So that's why I'm here to guide you through this. The person might be interested in helping out with a more accepting campaign. Help them find information on how to be a good ally to autistic people. There are some groups such as hashtags Light It Up Blue, Light It Up Gold, Wear Red Instead, so on and so forth. But in other cases, hashtag Light It Up Blue, I have heard, has pretty negative connotations. But there's other hashtags, as I just clearly mentioned, such as hashtag Red Instead, Going for Gold, so on and so forth, that is dedicated to supporting and uplifting autistic people. You may be interested in supporting ASAN or the Autistic Woman and Non-Binary Network instead. They're doing great works for autistic people. Would you like to participate in Autism Acceptance Month? It's a really positive campaign focusing on helping and accepting autistic people. Autism Speak isn't the kindest resource or sources out there. If you want to share articles about helping autistic people, maybe you should find something interesting from either the WikiHow, or even just maybe if you know of any autistic advocate that is advocating, maybe just to link up their blogs or videos or what have you to a certain website, or just in certain groups that you may be in. Some people will immediately listen to you and be eager to participate in more supportive campaigns. Others may want to do their own research first. That's okay, because obviously, as they say, we need to research first before we actually give the legitimate and real, information. Or some may, on the other hand, be reluctant to listen to you. Do your best to stay patient and polite as always. Not everyone reacts well to being told they are wrong, even if you phrase it very nicely. Sometimes you just have to cut your losses and move on forward. Swearing, name-calling, using all caps and other adversarial behaviour will likely make the situation worse, even if they aren't responding well. It's important to avoid being unkind. If you're losing your patience, just walk away. Accusations of ableism, rudeness and bad behaviour, even if they're true, will most likely make the person less interested in listening to you and considering your point of view. Taking out your frustrations on them may feel good in the moment, but at the end of the day, you need to question, did it really help? But it will likely to make them turn even more stubborn, and you may feel upset afterwards because things ended up badly between you and the person you dealt with in your hand. Show your appreciation for their willingness to listen. Give them a compliment if you feel like it. This helps the person know that their choices were appreciated. Thank you for listening. I bet autistic people love seeing the material put together for #WhenInstead. You've shown so much grace and thoughtfulness listening to me. Thank you very much. I think it's admirable what a considerate person you are. That's an awesome #WhenInstead selfie. I bet it will make an autistic person feel really happy to see your support. If you spend lots of time fighting negativity, you may find yourself getting overwhelmed and so exhausted to the point that you will not be able to function throughout the day. Self-care, as we know, is really important. Try to focus and appreciate all the positive things that people are doing for the autistic people in the community. So this quickly ends hopefully a real short video of how to help someone get more involved in autism acceptance than autism awareness, and I'll be back with you shortly. Also, where to find me? This again will be listed in the socials, but just to tell you right now is Facebook is my Aspie.answers. My Twitter again will be Aspie Answers, which are both capital A. Spotify obviously is Aspie Answers, which is capital A, capital A. YouTube is Aspie Answers, again capital A. Patreon is my crowdfunding page right now. You can find me on patreon.com, Aspie Answers basically. And for those of you who don't know what Patreon is, today for those who are listening that are new, I have the set up for funding for future projects like this one of my podcast versus my merch that I've been designing, which I'll share more briefly soon about my merch update, or even in this podcast right now as I'm addressing this to you guys, is that it's like a crowdfunding page or funding page for creators like me, or content creators, music creators, whoever it may be that's seeking out funding to support themselves in a way of maybe say they need extra equipment for their cameras versus maybe their radio equipment if they were doing something similar like I am doing today, or covering their rent, travel costs, what have you. And in saying this, also basically for the merch, you'll see me basically maybe wearing it once in a while on my YouTube channel, as well as maybe, you know, out and about in public. And so in saying this, my merch site is spreadshirt.com, Aspie. And another one you can find me on my social is for those who haven't and I like to read instead of watching or what have you as an alternative for you guys, is lifeofanaspieweb.wordpress.com. So this wraps up everything. I want to thank you all for listening right now. Follow me on the socials that were listed below. Subscribe, share this podcast to friends and family. You know, if you want to, feel free to become a Patreon to support this future project as well as many others that is in the works as of this time. Feel free to, you know, donate big or small with me in this journey of it. And also my merch obviously will cover the cost for this as well. So I'll catch you all again on the other side. Aspie signing out for now, and bye.